talk about you guys, it's not a different approach, but it is different because you're now in conference play, and is that a way for everyone to kind of refocus and re-energize, knowing this is your primary goal each and every year now?
I think, after you finish up with your non-conference schedule, and if you're fortunate as we are in that, you had all 4 non-conference games in a row right at the beginning of the season. Now you put that aside and you focus on conference play, and every game in conference is important, and so you approach it with that attitude, and you're refocused on what you want to be about and trying to reach your goals.
Opening with Kent, and there'll be a lot of motivated guys in your roster this week given what took place last year. Is that a good opener for conference to have a team that you're trying to, I guess, get a little payback against?
Well, last year's game was a game that was rough on us in a lot of ways. They just outplayed us, and we did not respond to the game itself. During the game, we didn't respond very well, and kind of got there's an absence there for me as to why we played the way we did at the end of the year. And so tried to look at that in the off season, tried to address things so that see if there were any changes that need to be made so that at the end of the year that we're playing our best football. Now that game's set aside and over with, obviously this one's vitally important to get off to a good start for us as well as Kent. And we're going to have to change what transpired throughout really the entire game. We got beat in both the offensive phase and the defensive phase. I think probably we won the special teams phase. We had 2 punt returns for 40 yards. They didn't have a punt return. I think both teams may have missed a field goal. We made a couple. So special teams we held up okay, but other than that, we just were plain beat. And so, we're going to have to change everything about our approach to it in terms of looking at film and how we're going to attack them and what type of defense we're going to play. They've played a tough non-conference schedule, and so obviously that's behind them too, and they're ready to go.
So looking at some of their statistical numbers might be a little misleading about
what
they're all about.
Yeah, I don't think you can phase that in at all. And in fact, I think the only statistics that really start to add up are if you take those statistics in the MAC conference alone and not include the whole NCAA statistics of all your season. I think you can get, as you get halfway through the season, start to get a feel for what your team's about by looking at MAC comparisons. And so, there's we know they're good athletes. Many of them the same guys that lined up against us last year. They're a good physical football team. We're going to have to play our best to get it done.
Can you assess your special teams, particularly your kickoff coverage? Are you disappointed in the way the kickoff coverage is going? Teams getting out to the 35, 40-yard line?
Was disappointed on the coverage early in the year. I think we've made progress. I think if you look at the actual coverage phase of it, was not bad. The kicking was not good. We kicked one out of bounds, gave them field position at the 40-yard line. We tried to sky kick. That was way too short. And so I think we're getting the coverage part of it resolved a little bit. We've made some changes on personnel. We've worked it hard in drill work during the week. So it'll be interesting to see how that holds up this week. What we need to do is have good kicks with deep kicks with some hang time and are placed properly, not kicked in the middle of the field or make a guy have to go for it a little bit and then have to bounce back to the return, and that'll help us tremendously. So where we're at on that, I think we're better than what we were early on, but we'll see.
Coach, your secondary is second in the nation in interceptions, but at times they've struggled to slow down the pass. Can you just talk about where they the progress they've made as a unit and kind of where they stand.
Well, we've faced pretty good quarterbacks. You know, I think Rutgers' quarterback was similar to Tyler Tettleton in a lot of ways. You know, just a quarterback that makes really good decisions, takes care of the football, finds the open receiver, and if you look at New Mexico State's quarterback, he got off to a great start against us and continued that. I think he's hurt now, but big loss for them. But we've faced some really pretty good throwing football teams, and so those statistics might be a little bit misleading too. But on the other side of it, you don't want one guy to catch 16 passes, and you don't want teams to be able to make big plays. You know, you look at the big plays and explosive plays in the Rutgers game. I think it was something like 14-13. You know, so we were right there with them. They struggled a little bit in the secondary too against our passing attack. I think if you have a good passing quarterback, you have really good receivers, there's going to be plays made against you. You don't get too concerned about the overall yardage that's thrown against you. You look at more at production. You know, I think this is true that passing yards don't equate to rushing yards. I think rushing yards equate more to points than passing yards do. But being a very, very good passing team can obviously be a tremendous plus for you. I don't know that I answered your question. I just kind of beat around the bush here a little bit.
And against Rutgers, it seems like you guys kind of abandoned the run early when it wasn't working out too well, and when the passing game was working out. Is that something that you really hate to do?
No. I like to have something working, and so whatever it is, we're going to hit it pretty hard. And I like the idea that we're capable of doing that. You know, if the running game's not going, we're laying the ball on the ground 5 times, lost 4 of them, then something's got to change. And if you can throw the ball and get yourself in position to score, throw a few touchdown passes, I'm okay with that. You know, we don't have to beat everybody up and run it against everybody we play. You know, there's going to be times when the running game gets slowed down. I think everybody's running game does at some point in time. In some games, you just got to have the rest of your offense ready to pick it up when that happens. Unfortunately, I think we've got the kind of personnel that can do that. Now, you know, if we weren't a very good throwing team, then you'd have a lot of concern about not being able to get a running game going. But you know, if they're committing to the run very, very quickly, doing an awful lot of blitzing like they were, which made it tough on the running game, you're going to make some plays, and we were able to do that in the passing game.
Your running defense has given up well over 100 yards past 2 games. Any reason for that? Any concern also?
You know, we played pretty good teams. I think Rutgers fashions themselves as a running football team, and you know, they've got very good running backs, and so they're going to get their yards. They're going to get some first downs. They're going to get some yards. They're going to keep some drives alive. They're going to take some time off the clock. All things that a good running team can do. You know, you just can't let it get out of hand. And you know, we were matching them point for point. The only thing that kept us from continuing to match them point for point was the fact that we handed them the football and took ourselves out of 4 drives. And you know, they had 2 turnovers. You know, the plus difference there was huge, and that equated to field position that we lost. And you look at the overall field position, we lost that battle too. So it all kind of comes back at you a little bit. But you know, we're gonna face some really good running football teams. We're gonna face some really good throwing football teams. If you face a team that can do both and has pretty good special teams, then if you beat them, you beat a team that's a championship caliber team. And so, you know, we'll have to find ways to win some of those kind of ball games.
Looking back at Kent State, Roosevelt Nix is back. Could you just touch on him and why he was a defensive defensive MVP of the league last year and what he brings to the table.
I think he's a great defensive player, and I don't use the word great a lot, but he is so explosive. He's so quick at the line of scrimmage, and then, you know, you look at his size and you say, well, he's not a real big guy. You know, his height, his weight. I mean, there are bigger guys in there than him, but there's nobody more explosive, and there's nobody that finishes plays off any better than what he does. So when you've got great quickness, great explosiveness, and you finish plays off, and you're tough, you have a chance to be a great player, and he has all of that and does all of that.
He reminds a lot of people of the Steelers linebacker Harrison, who also went to school at Kent.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see some of that comparison in him in terms of a guy who's not super big, not super fast, but seems to have enough of everything to be able
Yeah,
to
you know, I probably didn't get a chance to watch Harrison enough to be able to compare, but it sure sounds like they're similar kind of athletes in terms of ability and toughness and finding the football and making plays, you know.
With respect to Tyler, he's been pretty flawless through the air this year, but a lot of that has also been the help of his receiving core. Levon and Dante just keep making like amazing catches back to the end zone, one hand, whatever it is. How much does that help Tyler to have a receiving core like the one you have?
Well, they complement one another very well. The receiving core complements Tyler, and Tyler complements the receiving core, you know, because Tyler knows exactly where to place the ball in order to give them a shot at it. And that shot isn't always going to be a two-handed catch right in front of him. It's because of the positioning of the defensive back and the type of coverage. It's got to be put in a certain spot. Our receivers know it. I think our guys have made, so far this season, unbelievable number of one-handed catches, you know. And but we felt that going in, that we have those kind of receivers that can make those kind of plays, and that's why we wanted to develop our throwing game, and want to be able to throw the ball as much as it takes in order to win the football game. You know, normally, you know, my philosophy has always been, you know, let's get the run going, let's do this, let's do that. But, you know, as well as Tyler's been throwing it, as well as we've been catching it, I'm okay with the ratio not being heavy run. You know, if it's 50-50, I'm fine. If it's in favor of the passing game, I'm fine, as long as we're putting points on the board. That'll be the whole key. But get back to your point, they complement one another very, very well.
And along with that, this is the first time Kent has film from this year on the new offense. But this is the first time your new offense will be going up against a MAC opponent. What kind of impact do you want to make further for the league when you go out against a team in your conference? How do you want your offense to perform right off the bat?
Well, you know, we need to play well offensively in every MAC game. Last year, I know we had under 200 yards in total offense. Maybe it was more like 150 some. You know, we were 2 for 16 on third down conversions. I know I don't want that offense, you know. And so far, I've been pleased with how our offense has been able to move the ball, the number of points that they've put on the board. But you know, every week's a new challenge, and obviously we're going to have to make a lot of plays in order to keep our offense on the field in this ball game, because Kent is pretty good at getting you to where you're 3 and out, getting you in lost yardage situations and third and long situations, and any offense struggles when they're in those kind of situations.
Do you expect Dante Harden to be able to play this week?
I hope so. We'll see a little bit here in the early part of the week, but he was running on it at the end of the week last week. He just couldn't accelerate full speed. It seemed to have been getting better day by day, so if that process continued through the weekend, and you know, we'll be careful on how we practice him early part of the week, and with hopes that we'll be able to play him.
How deep is the Mid-American Conference? Do you sense that it's deeper, more parity this year than last year, top to bottom?
Well, I know it's grown that way since I've been in the conference. Teams have gotten better. I think the coaching is excellent. I think the MAC's been attracting really good athletes, and you know, at one point the MAC had a lot of good quarterbacks, and you know, and sprinkled here and there with really good players. But you see a lot of really good players on MAC football teams right now that can line up and compete with many BCS schools, and so the level of play in the MAC has really risen, and I think it's pretty much across the board.
Going back to the wide receivers, Levon Brazil and Tyler Tellington have hooked up for 4 touchdowns, 3 of them being pretty much the same corner route. Is that just something that if they see they can go for it, they have the freedom to do? Or?
Yeah, when you have one-on-one coverage, and you know, now if you don't have any kind of a ground game at all, and they don't respect it as you get down in the red zone, then you're not going to get one-on-one coverage. But you know, we're able to force some one-on-one coverage, and when that happens, Levon has been great at it, and you know, we've got a number of other receivers that are very, very capable at getting things done one-on-one, and that's a must, you know, because that's one thing about the passing game. You can throw for all those yards up and down the field, then you get in the red zone, and if you can't run it, and you don't have good one-on-one ability to make plays, then all those yards get wasted, and you're trying to kick field goals. So that's where the passing game can come down a notch for you. We're fortunate in the kind of receivers we have.
What do you take from Saturday's game, just heading into MAC play and looking forward to the rest of the season?
That we got to be at our best every single game. You know, if we want to be of championship caliber, we've got to play that way. 4 quarters against everybody we play. We cannot have a game where we leave the football on the ground, or the turnover margin is in excess the other way. We've got to play up to our potential, offensively, defensively, special teams wise. If we do that, there isn't a game we can't win. If we don't do that, there isn't a game we can't lose.
Jeff King, Derek Roback still on track to be, I guess, full practice participants at least this
Yeah,
week?
I think both of them have a chance for this game, and you know, we'll see how John wants to introduce him into full padded practice this week, and that will tell us a little bit more. I think we've got to be cautious of how we bring them along, but they both have a chance.
2 other guys dinged up Saturday. Tremaine Scott missed most of the first half. Any update on him? And then, of course, Travis with the concussion.
Yeah, I think Tremaine will be fine, and I think Travis will be fine. You know, I mean, he after he got off the field, you know, he was wanting to get back in immediately.
So
you know, and so
the helmet from him.
yeah, you know, there was after he was off the field, there was, you know, real no symptoms, but you know what transpired forced you to take the steps that we're taking.
Any other questions for Coach?
I got one thing I wanted to ask you about. I'm sure you've heard Toledo asking for a game to be overturned based on the review, not the Toledo-Syracuse game. Official replay missed what apparently was a missed extra point. They ruled it good despite the second look. Your thoughts on instant replay and how this situation can be avoided in the future? You know, with the Big East coming out and saying, yeah, we missed it. You know, what's your reaction as a coach to something like that?
Well, it's hard to understand how it was missed when it happened. I mean, the officials are right in position to make the call. You know, if it's clear, then there should be absolutely no question. You know, obviously there was question involved in it, and everybody seems to be getting on the same page of it was just a missed call. And you know, you see it. Officials aren't perfect. You know, they have some missed calls. The replay is not perfect. I mean, there's sometimes when, you know, you just shake your head at replay, but it's the best we got, and you just hope that everybody's just doing the best they can with it, and that it proves out to to be right. You know, it's, I'm sure the best system that we have. You know, what should all be done there, you know, I have no idea. You know, that's up to, you know, the two conferences and the people involved to make decisions on that. But it sounds like it's pretty clear that was missed, and everybody seems to be on the same page with that.
As a coach and knowing that the call was wrong, is that something that would eat at you for a while, or were coaches trained to try to get over things as quick as possible and move on to the next game?
Well, you train your players that way, so obviously you can't be jumping up and down for a week. But if there's a misjustice done, then it needs to be addressed, and I think that's what Toledo was doing. I think anybody in that situation would be doing the same thing, you know, and so